welcome in everyone to another episode of Inside ARCS. Today we've got a full house and a full docket of things to talk about. First, we're going to welcome in all our guests to the podcast. It is a full studio today. First up, we've got the owner of ARCS, Ryan Pannell, coming back on for his third time. Ryan, how we doing today?
Good, man. I'm just here to listen. I heard we're going to have a debate later on, so I'm just here to listen to some people yell at each other. I can't wait.
This should be good. And one of our main components of the debate later on is the driver of the number 9 A Squared Cup car, Seth Wansing. Seth, how we doing?
Pretty good, man. And yourself?
Doing well, rocking and rolling. Just got done watching a great ARCS Xtreme race, at least for one person, and we'll get to that guy here in a second. But also joining us is one of our broadcasters, Rick James. How you doing, bud?
Happy to be here. Good to be here with Ryan, Seth, you, Matt, and the rest of the team. It's a rare appearance, so I'm ready to have fun.
Yep, gonna be a great episode. And the dominator of ARCS Xtreme is joining us as well, Mr. Austin Purnell, coming off his third victory in a row for the ARCS Xtreme Asphalt Division. Mr. Purnell, how we doing?
Oh yeah, we're doing good. Just was able to get the third win of the season, but it was a lot closer this time than the last two, so they're creeping up on me.
Yeah, we're going to get into the ARCS Xtreme action here in just a bit, but first, we're going to jump into we left off with TNT and their Daytona Week action in our last episode, and then the next night we had ARCS Ignition headed to Auto Club, and it was a great race, and we've got the winner here in studio with us, and that is Mr. Seth Wansing takes home the victory on ARCS Ignition as one of the part-time drivers. He comes down kind of like a Kyle Busch situation, but goes in and shows the Ignition guys how to get it done. You can see our finishing order up on the screen as Seth Wansing took home the win, led 21 laps. Seth, going through that Ignition race, it was a pretty close fight. There was a lot of movement in the top 5, and then some strategies played out later in the race. What kind of was going through your head as that race carried on?
I would like for it to stay green, but I mean, it was a lot of fun. Some of my team guys have been asking me to run Mike LaJoy and Alfie and Aaron, and those guys were wanting me to run with them real bad, and I really enjoy the 2 Mile Auto Club surface. So I decided to try my hand at it and have some fun, and wasn't expecting a win or anything. There's some really talented guys we got coming up the pipeline, but I had a lot of fun with it. Was just kind of riding around till that last caution. Was hoping just me and Mike were going to get to battle it out. But we had a little race to go down instead, which is fun. Had to fight through some traffic on a restart, which is always fun. Get to see how our new guys are doing, and it turned out to be a fantastic show.
Yeah, fantastic show all the way around. Seth brought home the win. Mike LaJoy, his teammate, grabbed second. Not too far behind him. He led 4 laps on the race. Aiden Norman grabbed 12 laps and finished third. Then Edward Marshall and Patrick Overstat finished out your top 5. Ryan, as you broadcast the race, and I know we had some issues early on, but got it all figured out. And what did you think after the first 2 weeks of ARCS Ignition and bringing this series back in and creating this feeder system towards the A Squared Cup Series? What's been your overall conclusion and feelings towards this division?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really good so far. I think it's been extremely successful. I was a little worried with some of the practices we did. Honestly, I just wasn't sure how the racing was going to go. But the drivers pretty quickly showed that they know what they're doing. They're out there to prove that they can run on Sunday night with the big boys and girls. So I've been pleased so far. Yeah, I had some issues with my broadcasting that decided to update last minute right as the race was starting, but we got it figured out, got it fixed, and was able to at least bring the last 30, 40 laps with good graphics and a good broadcast. Briley was a trooper for sure. He hung in there with me. He was pretty much by himself while I was trying to figure some stuff out. So shout out to Briley for helping. But no, it was a great race, really good racing, and just proud of everybody so far for the shows they put on for everybody at home that watches every Friday night.
Yeah, it's been a great showing so far, and definitely saw some issues in the warm-ups, and now we're in the season. I think drivers are starting to see that window open as we get deeper into this 12-race window, in that there's chances for A-squared cup spots to open up, and some of these guys are shooting for those spots. And you can see here as we pull up our ignition standings through the first two races, Alfie Sharon with his 1 win's got a 10-point lead over Aiden Norman. Jonathan Smeals in third, tied with Thomas Andrews. Zach McBride is 1 point back of that third position in the 5th spot. Rick, have you been kind of watching the ignition? I know you're not in the streams with this one, but looking at the ignition from outside in, do you see certain drivers that could possibly pose threats to A-squared drivers and their cup spots?
Looking at this season through ignition, I mean, we're looking at teams like Beachron that are just absolutely dominating the points right now. I mean, they've got 231 to 178 at the moment. And if you're looking at the latest standings, you've got to give it up to Alfie Sharon, who's sitting top of Ignition Xfinity right now. Just with right now, after he's got 1 win, he still has an average finish of 4th this season, and he's really just leading the way so far after this race. And moving forward, Alfie has a big resume that comes behind him as well from the OG, what's now grassroots racing season as well. But then you've got right behind him Aiden Norman, who's the defending TNT champion. You've also got to give it up to John Smeal. And there's a lot of talent in that first 10. I mean, you've got Jason Alexander sitting there as well. You've got Mike LaJoy sitting in the 6th position in points. And a lot of these drivers have the longevity to go the distance, but consistency is also going to be the most important thing going forward because the season's only just started. So anything is still possible.
Yeah, and I think when we had Ryan on a couple episodes back, he mentioned consistency is going to be the key, and that's what those owners are looking for. Ryan and Seth, both owners of A-squared Cup teams, and Austin being a part of one of those A-squared Cup teams. And you look at going up and down the talent levels there, but ultimately that phrase, consistency is key, and I think that's where everything's going to be. Austin, you've got a couple opportunities to race in the Ignition series. Are we expecting you sooner or later down in that Ignition series to take part, or is that kind of something you're going to shy away from and just focus on your A-squared competitions?
I'm still kind of undecided on it. I might pop in 1 or 2 races. Maybe some of the tracks I would maybe need some more improvement on. I don't think I'll go do like a short track or something. I think I'll do one of the tracks that I'm already struggling at just to get some more experience. But I ain't too sure what that's going to be yet.
I gotcha. So, hey, using it as practice, you've got your A-squared Cup spot locked in and watching yourself roll along there, and, use it for that practice. Do what you got to do. ARCS Ignition off to a great start. Seth goes down and steals a win coming down from the A-squared competition, but those Ignition drivers are hot on the heels, looking for spots coming up. And if you're interested in watching or joining that division, go to racearcs.com, fill out an application, and Ryan and the admins will help you filter your way in. And then if you're just looking to watch some good racing, ARCS Racing Networks on Twitch and YouTube. Ryan will be live every Friday night with those races. We're going to move on to our Saturday series, and it's Saturday Night Showdown. They headed out west as well, but they did lefts and rights this week. They were in Sonoma, wine country, and we previewed it last episode, and we thought, oh, this is just going to be the Aiden Norman show. He's going to drive away. It's, just like we watched in TNT at Suzuka, but that was not the case, as Aiden Norman took the win, but he had to fight. He had to fight to the very end of his life as he took home the win, led 16 laps, but only won by about a second and a half over Joshua Gaiman. They were nose to tail for literally the entire race. Green flag, yellow flag, didn't matter. They could not get away from each other. And Rick, you watched over this, and when you watch the battle between Norman and Gaiman, was there? It was so respectful but so competitive at the same time. You could have literally just watched that the entire race and been like, all right, you other 18 guys, be like, all right, you guys are just off in the weeds somewhere. But those two guys running away with it, but keeping it so clean, what does that do from a broadcaster's perspective, watching something like that?
It makes you want more. It makes you it kind of just reignites the whole passion and the whole reason that you love racing in the first place, because you love seeing the field whittled down to these competitors, that are going to go head to head, neck and neck. If you look at the points table right now, they're separated by just 5 points. They both have the same number of wins. They both have a similar average finish so far into the season. So really, it is the two titans between them. There's only 5 points between first and second, when there's and the top three as well, because you got to give it up to Lilac Zier sitting in third as well. The top three is spread by 19 points, and it's another 31 points to Seth Wansing in fourth. So you have to really keep an eye on Norman and Gaiman, but you've got to give it up to that driver that you've got in third as well. I really, really like the way that the season is shaping up as well, and I would love to see what Joshua Gaiman can do in Thursday Night Thunder on a consistent schedule as well. Norman has proven that he can be at the front in multiple disciplines, but it's good to finally see someone that can consistently match him and force his rival to get better.
Yeah, it was an absolute barn burner to watch all the way through. I mean, lefts, rights, ups, downs. That Sonoma is not an easy track to learn and or conquer, as you go around so many different ways to get around there. Seth, you grabbed a 7th place finish there, and like Rick said, you're currently 4th in the points in SNS, as we're about coming up on the halfway mark of this season 5. And when you look at Sonoma, obviously I think the key was for everyone just stay on the track and you're gonna be okay. Was that kind of the thought process going in, or were you looking to attack that track a little bit more?
For me, I'm at the stage of my road racing time on iRacing to where I need to take that next step and attack. And like Rick was saying, Gaiman and Norman are the bar, and the rest of us are kind of chasing it and just trying to find ways to keep pace. Jeremy Brielle, by the way, is no slouch either of those road courses here in ARCS. So I'm just trying to find ways to improve myself and attack the racetrack instead of just focusing on staying on the track, if that makes sense. And maybe pop up there and get a win, and that cost me. I mean, I made a few mistakes, drove off the track one time, and instead of a 3rd or 4th place finish, which is probably where I was going to end up, I ended up with a 7th place. So it's little minute details like that you got to fix and keep chugging along with, but we'll get there and keep improving on those road courses.
Yeah, road courses, they've become a large part of the stock car or truck schedules inside the NASCAR real life world, and it's definitely filtering its way into the sim world, as there are different disciplines that have emerged, and certain drivers got them more than others, and it's fun to watch. And we'll keep on tracking SNS as they go along, but we're going to move on to, before we tackle A Squared, which is the behemoth of ARCS right here in the top level, we're going to jump over it and head to ARCS Xtreme, which finished up their race here tonight. And it was kind of the same old story, as Mr. Austin Purnell decided that he's just going to lead all the laps again and take home his 3rd win. Austin, the last 3 weeks is, you've kind of run away from the field and made the short track scene your own. Is it something that just kind of falls in your wheelhouse, or is is there a preparation that goes into it that you've just kind of clicked on and you found this hot streak?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I'd say it just falls into more of my wheelhouse. I do a lot of this racing in real life. Well, not exactly super late models, just late model stock, but it's very similar. And pretty much since I joined iRacing in 2017, I think, is I've only done short track stuff up until this past probably year and a half. I've started to just dabble into more of the trucks or ARCR and Cup cars. So just experience playing there, but tonight, Seth and Dustin Painter, they was right there kind of keeping up with me after about 15 laps or so. They would, I think, only beat them by about 2 seconds. So they're definitely closing that gap up.
Yeah, and we've seen you run away. The first race, I think you lapped everyone but like the top three, and then second race, a few more found the lead lap, and we have yet to see a caution in the ARCS Xtreme asphalt division, and that kind of lends to those that can save those tires. And uh, Seth, you ran well in this race, grabbed a third, and you kind of talked about it in the post race. Of the Xtreme is that the tires were the big keys. Like you were able to go, and then all of a sudden it was like I can't go no more. Was there anything that you would look to change that would have maybe given you the upper hand on Austin, or were you just holding on to his rear bumper for dear life?
Started the race just trying to hang with him. But I mean, if you keep on judging yourself off of someone, I mean, you'll learn. But I've come to find, you take ideas and you take things for them, but you got to figure it out yourself too and develop your own line and your own way of doing things. And I used to be notoriously bad about saving tires for a 30, 40 lap run, and I'm getting really good at it while staying consistently fast too. I feel like this year it's been a big improvement in my running order and my consistency. I feel like I'm in the top five a lot more often and than I was on a consistent basis in any series. Just trying to learn from the best, and Austin certainly is that right now in that series. So, um, just tried to hang on to his bumper and then develop my own line, and it worked there for a bit, but just ran out of right front tire at the end and couldn't close the gap where I wanted to. So, again, congrats to Austin. Again, he's flat out dominating. So, it's a sight to behold, man. He is something else in those super late models.
Yeah, it's so much fun to watch him dominate that you got to go watch second and third battle because he's just doing his thing out in no man's land by himself. But Ryan, I'm gonna bring you into this as the owner of ARCS, and and watching ARCS Xtreme develop and this short track asphalt program. What's something that you want to tell everyone that's listening and that's a part of ARCS or not a part of ARCS yet that what is the ARCS Xtreme short track program all about? What's the money making pitch as we would say to have these drivers come out and be like, hey, give it a shot and let's see what we can do.
I mean, it's really just about teaching new people how to race the cars and how to race the tracks. I mean, if you can run super late models at some of these short tracks, you can pretty much run anything on iRacing. I mean, other than road course is a little bit different, but yeah, I mean that's how ARCS Xtreme originally started. Me and Dustin Painter and Thomas Andrews kind of got together and wanted to start this kind of asphalt slash dirt ARCS Xtreme schedule, and it was really just to have a couple of nights of laid back racing where we have some fun, and it is smaller fields, but honestly that's better sometimes just because you have 10 to 12 people, and if someone needs some help, we don't shy away from telling them what our steering ratios were, what our brake bias, what we ran with our brake bias and offsets and stuff like that. I mean, it's really a training, and teaching series. So, if anybody, I know a lot of people are really scared of dirt, which we run on Tuesdays, and some people feel the same way about these super late models at short tracks. But feel free to come out. We'll teach you, and if you're slow, then don't worry about it. I'm back there with you, so I'll be running with you and running in the back. It's still a lot of fun, and it's just about getting better lap after lap, just continuing to improve yourself as a driver and as a teammate and as a member of ARCS.
Yeah, and ultimately, and we've said this before, ARCS is one large family. No matter whether you come from the short track background, road courses, stock cars on the big tracks with Cup and Truck and TNT. It's one big family, and it's a great gateway into those other series and friendships and things like that as you make laps, even if you are driving in 10th or 12th, racing around the family members and getting that respect and the value of turning new laps. And like Seth was mentioning on the road course side and on the short track side about just seeing what other people do, and maybe that helps you out in your own racing, whether you're in the officials or over in league races. So if you are interested and want to hop in, ARCS Xtreme is always open. Same for ARCS Ignition on Friday night. Go to racearcs.com, throw that application in there, and we'll get you in there for next week's race as they head off to Myrtle Beach for the next short track asphalt package. We'll get a quick look here at the standings. Austin Purnell running away with it. He's got a 15, I believe that's a 15 point. No, that's a 25 point lead over Seth Wansing. One mistake and a good sized field could vault Seth back into competition here, but Austin's got a good stranglehold here on the Xtreme super late model program. And Austin, you looking to continue? Are you shooting for that perfecto year where every race is just the Purnell show?
Well, yeah, that'd be awesome, but that's probably a little unrealistic. I'm sure I'll make a mistake here and there, and like I said, these guys are really chopping at my ankles here to get in front of me. So, of course, we're going to try to. I don't know if they're going to make me start in the back the next race. I don't know if that's a rule or not, but I was just thinking about that. But
well,
hopefully we can.
I don't believe it's written in the rules, so keep old Ryan Pannell accountable and not let him throw them old monkey rules in there. So we'll see what Pannell comes up with. I doubt he comes up with anything. He likes what you're doing and seeing you race the way you're racing. Congratulations on the 3 in a row. Good luck on the 4th in a row as you head into next week. Now we're going to jump back a day and we're going to head to A Squared action. A Squared was out at Auto Club the final time. You're going to run this configuration as the 2-mile setup, and it did not disappoint. As I'm looking, there we go. It did not disappoint. The racing at the front, the middle, the back throughout this entire race was absolutely awesome to watch. I ran race control over top. We had no cautions in the first 2 stages, and then we got a great green flag run in the 3rd stage, and then the old cautions breed cautions caught up with the field, and in the last 20 laps was an all-out melee of just haymakers being thrown by everyone. In the end, Daniel Michel steals the show, the first rookie to win in 2023 and secure his playoff spot. One of Sunday Money's race car drivers, and Seth Wansing came in and decided, I'll just finish 1-2 for Sunday Money Racing. And Seth, what do you think? You got a driver locked into the playoffs now, and it's your rookie. What's the emotions, the feelings coming off that A Squared 1-2 finish?
Second sucks. No, I'm super happy for Daniel. And it took a chance on him in the draft. I've heard a lot of good things about him, but I'd never seen him race, and he had only ran and kicked our butts in the ARCS 24 hours of NASCAR. So went ahead and took a chance on him, and it's paid off huge. So super happy with how he's driving the race car right now, and looking forward for things to come, and for myself, hopefully on the next one to lock it in. And I know Brandon is super fast, and he's going to find his wins, and John Honeybrink is just Mr. Consistent. He's going to find his way to the top 10 of races and sneak up and grab a win every once in a while as well. So I feel like we got a really strong team and super, super excited for what's to come for Sunday Money Racing. And, I felt like I had one of the cars to beat along with Daniel and Austin. We traded a lot of sliders and had a lot of fun. Josh Gaiman was up there too. I would have liked to have a long run. I felt like I was the best long run car. Would have liked to grab a win, but I'll take a big points day in a second, even though second does suck.
Hey, it was a great day for the Sunday Money team as the champion of A Squared took a big hit and had a DNF today. Jeremy Brault got caught up in a couple wrecks, and it vaulted and changed out the point standings as we finish up here on our lineup. Daniel Michelle grabs first, Seth is second, Austin Purnell grabs the third place position. A great showing for him and for Black Acid Racing as Gaiman came in fourth, and Purnell's teammate Matthew Leiter grabs a top 5 to help that slow start from Daytona for Black Acid. And we're going to get to team standings here in a second, but first we're going to jump over to the driver standings and look at what's going on after 2 races. And currently Joshua Gaiman holds the point lead at 101. Seth jumps up after his second place finish. He's currently holds down the second place spot, and Austin Purnell with his third place position vaults him into third. Our 2 drivers that are locked in for playoffs, Jeremy Brault and Daniel Michelle, they don't have to worry about these point standings anymore. They just need to prepare these next 24 races to get to the 10-race playoff system. But as you can see, a lot of movement still yet to come as A Squared heads to Las Vegas next week. Our next standings we'll look at is our team standings, and this is where things have tightened up a little bit. B-Tron got out to one heck of a start after Daytona, but it has tightened down as Prophecy Racing cuts into the lead. B-Tron Racing at 304, Prophecy at 278, Line Power 236, and Sunday Money at 226. Then you have Presidential, Bandit, and Black Acid looking to play catch up just a little bit. Austin, you finished third in A Squared, and you're coming in as a rookie this year, and you are leading the Rookie of the Year standings currently by 1 point over Mr. David Wright. You look at the A Squared season as it's begun. What are your feelings so far as we're 2 races into this first 12-race window?
I'd say I'm just pretty optimistic right now. It's just real early, just Super Speedway and then Auto Club, and now we're going to head to Vegas. I feel like it's going to be a lot similar to what we just raced at Auto Club. So I'm feeling pretty good, but it's a lot of good rookies. I know y'all said, at least I think Ryan said, I might be the favorite rookie, but I mean, I look at someone like Emma Kruger. She got the pole. She won a duel. Then you got Daniel Michelle. He won the Auto Club race, obviously. And then Jack Mulkey, he's doing great. David Wright, all of them. I mean, so the rookie battle, I think, is going to be tight all season long.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a tight. I think this will be one of the most competitive rookie classes to come through A Squared in a minute. And Ryan, you're looking at Presidential, you're at 199 on the team charts. Did Auto Club kind of, was it what you were expecting, or are you guys still trying to get your footing as we head into week number 3 in Las Vegas?
Nah, we had a shit race at Auto Club. I mean, it was terrible. It was not good. Teamster was doing okay, and then his kid ripped his router out of the wall, so he lost connection. He went like 9-10 laps down early on. Really could never recover. Jacket Donald Ray, he had some issues. Got involved in a couple wrecks. Boss got involved in a wreck late, so we just struggled at Auto Club. I mean, there was no way around it. So we're gonna try and regroup and get back after it at Las Vegas. And I mean, one good thing that we, kind of have on our side is we have not used our part-time driver Jacob Blankenship. I mean, everybody knows he won Rookie of the Year last year, and unfortunately, due to work, his work schedule wasn't able to run full time this year. But I have him part time on my team this year, and he has not run a race yet. Whereas some of the teams ahead of us, their part time drivers have already used up one of their races. So that'll help us out when Blankenship finally is able to finally run one of or two of his races. That'll help us out. But overall, I mean, me and Jacket have been pretty consistent. I mean, so far I've finished top 10 both races, finished 7th in the 500, and then got a 10th at Auto Club. But the rest of my team just we just got to stay consistent. I mean, that's where we're gonna try and make up points, is just being there at the end. And stage points are killing us. And then honestly, the heat races, I think all four of us got wrecked in the heat race. I got just absolutely destroyed by someone that I won't call them out on the podcast, but they know who they are. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's racing. Sometimes you have a string of good luck, and then sometimes you have a string of bad luck. And right now, presidential racing's just not having the luck that we need. But I'm still optimistic. I'm looking forward to we still have 24 more races until the playoffs start. So me and Jacket right now are in the playoffs. Boss and Kevin Feemster kind of on the outside looking in right now, but I think that'll change once we kind of get in the groove of things. So overall, it is what it is. I'm definitely frustrated after 2 races, but I have a lot more on my plate than everyone else does. So I have a million other things going through my mind Sunday nights than team points. So that probably doesn't help the team factor either. But yeah, we'll just keep after it and see what we can do, and hopefully we can be up there competing with B-Tron and Sunday Monday when we get to the end of the season.
Yeah, long way to go. And Rick, I'm going to bring you in here, playing the bird's eye perspective here, and you've kind of watched how the teams got formulated through the draft, and got the roster set, and now we're inside this 12-race window where you got to put up or shut up because your spot could be on the line. Those ignition drivers are getting better, and they're developing. And from your perspective, sitting high up above, what are you seeing both in the present and in the future of these teams as we start approaching the middle of this 12-race window and get closer to that moment where someone like Seth or Ryan and those owners have to make a decision? Do I make a driver change, or do I stand pat and keep moving my way through this season?
Well, there's a lot of things to look at, including the playoff grid. I mean, straight away, looking at the playoff grid, you see names like Gaiman, Wansing, Painter, Pannell. These are all names that you not only see in A-squared, but you see them at the top of every bracket, whether it be SNS, whether it be TNT, even Ignition as well. You pointed out that there's drivers coming up in the Ignition series that we just mentioned that could be taking some of these spots. Looking at the results from Auto Club, if you look at that top 4, 3 of them are drivers that we have mentioned and spoken to earlier. You've got Seth Wansing, Austin Purnell, Josh Gaiman sitting 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Dan Michelle, of course, winning that race. But if you look further down that top 10, you've got drivers like David Wright. You've got drivers like Tommy Withers as well. And even in that top 15, you've got to look to drivers like Donald Ray. I mean, these are drivers that, you would like to see move further up in the point standings. But of course, as this 12-race window goes on, like you said, it's put up or shut up. Some of these drivers are going to put up, and unfortunately, some of these drivers just won't have what it takes, and they might see that their spot just is replaced. I don't envy being a team owner as the 12-race window comes to a close, because come that final race, you're going to have to make the decision between, do you want the best chemistry on the team or do you want the best results?
Yep, and all decisions that are weighing, I believe, on those owners' minds. And as we get closer and probably past race 6, 7, 8, I think that those thoughts are going to creep a little bit further forward in those owners' minds. I don't want to put you on the spot, Rick, but if you had to make a future prediction, go 10 weeks ahead. Is there a driver that needs to currently finds himself on a hot seat?
I don't know that you can really put anybody on a hot seat 2 weeks into the season so far, but you look at drivers, for example, like Kevin Feemster, who had that 16th place finish after starting 18th at Auto Club. Definitely, you give him a C minus. He must try harder. Looking at
I think
the penalties.
He caught bad luck. I mean, you can't help someone ripping your router out of the wall. So I think you give him a pass on that one. Yeah, it doesn't help the points, but you can't help someone ripping your internet right out the wall.
He can
No,
put his
absolutely you can't. But it's something for next week as well. Help me. Where's the next race next week?
Vegas.
But it's certainly something where there it is, Vegas, where Kevin's just going to have to again. Things happen, but he's going to have to put in a performance to make up for these happenings. Unfortunately, that's just the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes. Looking at the points again, we're only 2 weeks into the season, but you look at guys like John Samil, who's already up against it again. He's only got one start this season, but if he intends to go the distance, he's going to have to put in a more consistent performance.
Well,
and really, that's what it boils down to.
He's going to be in he's in part-time role, so he only has one more start in this 12 race window. So he's actually one of those drivers looking to grab a spot. So he'll I don't know when B-Tron plans to have him back in the car for his second part-time race. When you look at the full-time drivers as we work towards this season, do you think it's going to be decisions that have to be made on their performance or on their how would you put it, their demeanor on the track around the other drivers? Because we've had a couple instances now in a couple weeks in a row. Granted, one is super speedway and now it's the first time we're one-on-one racing in a stretched out line. Do you think those type issues formulate problems in the owner's mind? It's like, look, like we're having multiple issues and it's not helping us both in the performance world or in the way the other teams are thinking about us. Do you think that could be where people find themselves more on the hot seat than their performance would be?
I think it's going to depend on the haves versus the have-nots. If you look at teams like B-Tron and Prophecy that are leading the points by, let's say, roughly 42 markers between second and third. 42 points is the difference between third and roughly where fourth place Bandit Racing is. So I think those teams looking at, in order, Line Power, Sunday Money, you've got Presidential and then Bandit Racing from third to fourth. Those are the teams where they're going to have to think about, how serious am I about making it to the top two? B-Tron and Prophecy, after 2 weeks, are already showing that they are the haves, while third on down could end up being in those have-nots. So if these team owners are serious about graduating from if you were to split it into divisions from this second division to this first division of elite teams to compete for the title, it's going to take not only that chemistry, but it's going to take the performances as well. I mean, these guys are going to have to get clever with their math and figure out the right formula. What's going to take me from this division to that next division so I can actually say we're serious about a title, and the numbers prove it.
Yeah, and the team divisions, it's going to fluctuate big time as drivers have good, bad, or just consistent races. So those, B-Tron's looking to hold and be consistent and go wire to wire. Austin, as the only driver that's not an owner in this chat right now, when you hear about, okay, there's a 12 race window, there's a chance my spot could go away. Does that weigh on your mind, or do you just go into each week knowing, okay, I'm gonna give whatever I got this week, and then we'll deal with what comes after?
You definitely keep it in the back of your mind, I know if I'm running poorly, I would fully expect that my team owner James Kerr would drop me. So obviously I want to go out there and perform the best I can and keep me up in the points.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the key phrase: consistency is key. And those that find that consistency are gonna find themselves holding on to their spots. And even if everyone is consistent in just attendance, someone's got to finish 25th, 26th. You can't. Not everyone can finish in the top 10. So it's gonna be a barn burner. A Squared heads to Las Vegas this week. You can find that on ABN Networks, Arrow Broadcasting Networks, with Carmen Hardy broadcasting that Sunday nights. It's not too late to jump in and catch up on all the dealings going on, as we are 2 races in, and B-Tron racing out to the big team lead currently, and 2 drivers already locked into the playoffs, but we're getting rocking and rolling. First 12 races have a window, and then we have a little bit of driver shuffle that could be coming up. So stay tuned with that, as here on Inside ARCS we continue to bring you all the coverage throughout our weeks, and we've got a full week of racing, as giving you a little preview coming up. Our dirt series runs on Tuesday night. They're going to head out. And then we've got, I believe we're off this week for TNT, so don't have to worry about any TNT coming up this week. But ARCS Ignition out at Las Vegas. Then S&S takes on the Coliseum with Bristol Motor Speedway. And then you got A Squared at Las Vegas as well. So look out for that coming up. Now we're going to head into our next segment, and we started this last episode with green, yellow, red flag. I'm going to give a prompt or a question out to our podcast guest here tonight, and we'll see where they land. Green means, hey, keep going, I like what I'm hearing. Yellow means, I'm there, but there might be some issues. And red means, we got to stop. We're going the other way. I do not agree with that. And so we'll bring in the first question. We'll start easy before we get into our big debate that we have tabled for a little bit later. But first up, I'm going to go straight to Mr. Ryan Pannell, and then we'll kind of bounce it around. Ryan, green, yellow, red on Las Vegas in the real world, and Kyle Busch going back-to-back from his win at Auto Club and now headed out to Vegas, which is his home track. Green, yellow, red. Kyle Busch dominates and wins.
Yellow. I don't think he dominates. I think he'll be competitive, but I don't think he'll. I definitely don't think he'll dominate. He might win the race. I just don't see him dominating. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge Blaney fan, as everyone knows. Blaney had a really fast car at Auto Club and then just got absolutely destroyed on that restart. Ruined his whole race. He finished 2 or 3 laps down. But, I mean, he led most of stage 1. He had a fast car. I feel like Blaney's going to be fast, so I got to say yellow just because I'm pulling for Blaney. I think Blaney will be fast, but I think Kyle Busch will be up there, but I don't think he dominates, and I don't think he goes back-to-back.
Yeah, and Seth, coming over to you, with Kyle Busch being in the Chevy, RCR running well, as they got a 1st and a 6th in the Auto Club race, and the top 4 drivers were all Chevys. Green, yellow, red, that Chevy dominates the top 5, top 10 in the running order at Las Vegas.
Yellow. Everybody knows that I'm a Chevrolet and Chase Elliott guy, so yellow on them dominating the top 5. I think they'll have 3 or 4 guys. I think they'll have 3 out of the top 5. I think Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano are going to be there. Those 2 always run well at Las Vegas, and Penske always brings good stuff to Las Vegas. But I think Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson are going to be right there with them. So I think they'll have 3 out of the top 5, but I'm going to go yellow because I think the 12 and the 22 are going to show up on Sunday as well.
Yeah, and switching manufacturers, Austin, you look at Toyota, they struggled out at Auto Club with overall speed, as Bubba Wallace was kind of the driver that was up there and then disappeared because of issues he was having. But green, yellow, red, Toyota continues to see struggles at the 1.5 mile, 2 mile tracks?
I'm actually gonna go, at least for the first part of the season, I'm gonna go green on that. I think they will struggle at least at Vegas. I think it's gonna be a lot similar to Auto Club. I think they might have one maybe two the back half of the top 10 Toyotas, but I could see them continue to struggle at least this first half of the season.
Yeah, Toyota not having the best of starts, but 2 races in, and Rick, last little in real world question. You look at Kevin Harvick starting off this year, looks strong through the season. Green, yellow, red. Kevin Harvick wins more than one race before the playoffs.
Green. I'm with you. I watched him win at Michigan last fall, and it was awesome thinking, man, this could be the last time Kevin Harvick wins, and he goes on and he does it the week after that. I think Kevin Harvick is nearing the end of his career now. And well, of course he's nearing the end of his career, but it might be setting in, so he's literally got nothing left to lose, and you almost see the same light in his eyes that you saw in March of 2001 when he instantly took like a fish to water. He's 47 now. He's going to be turning 48 before Christmas, and he's got just not only the magic of his youth back, but he has the experience. You know how you always think back, man, if I could just go back knowing what I know now, I think Kevin has one more chance to do it. He's going to win definitely more than one race before the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun to watch as the season continues on. Cup Series goes out to Vegas this next week, and the big question that has been formulating around our little group with our family and whatnot is all of a sudden this top 5 drivers in the world, I think is where it started. Who's the top 5 best drivers in the world? Not just Cup Series, not just stock cars, but all around. And Seth and Rick are gonna have a little fun here because they've been debating this for I don't know months maybe. But now we're gonna bring it to the podcast studio and bring in a couple more people with it. So we'll leave Seth and Rick for the back end of this, and we'll start with Austin. Austin, when I say the top 5 drivers in the world are, what names come to mind for you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna probably say, that is hard. I'm gonna probably say Kyle Larson, probably Lewis Hamilton. Let's see. Are we talking current or can we go past?
No, current driver as of right now.
Okay.
The top 5 you believe in this world.
Okay. Well, like I said, Kyle Larson, Lewis Hamilton. We'll probably go. And stuff. I'll say Kyle Busch for third. We'll go to the dirt side. Probably. Well, no.
Gets tougher and
Man,
tougher. There's
tough.
so many good names.
It's tough. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking through.
I'll give you a pause right there. That will give you your top 3. Let you sit on 4 and 5. Ryan, I'm gonna come to you. You got your top 3, maybe even top 5 already formulated in your head?
Yeah, I got my top 3, but nobody's gonna like them because I don't watch that go-kart crap that everybody else watches. So I don't watch any of that. And I know that's an unpopular opinion, but I'm an asshole, so who cares? I would definitely put Kyle Larson up there in the top 5 for me. I think Kyle Busch is up there as well. I mean, you got to look at his record and there's no doubt that dude can drive a race car. I mean, he's very talented. I think, if you go overall, I think you got to mention Christopher Bell. I think you got to put him up there in the top 5. And my 4th is probably going to be a very unpopular opinion, but just based off of everything that he's done, and I used to be a fan. I really like Casey Kane. I don't necessarily think he is extremely talented, but the dude can pretty much drive, anything that he gets in. He's had a really good record in the trucks that he ran, and did well in the Cup Series. Not as well as some of the other, like Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch, but and then he jumped over to sprint cars and did very well over there. Still, he's running. I think Casey Kane's running like 87 races this season in sprint cars. So
Jeez.
the dude's still
He's
still getting after it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'd probably have to think on my fifth one. It would probably honestly be Matt Crafton in the trucks, just because he's been around forever. But you also don't really know what Matt Crafton can do because he's been in the truck series for 30 something years. So
journeyman
you don't
driver.
really know his. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's probably where I would go. Is Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Casey Kane, Christopher Bell, and Matt Crafton.
All right. Well, Rick and Seth, I'll decide who goes first on this. I've got a number between 1 and 20. Seth, what is it?
9.
Of course, you would go 9. Rick?
13.
Well, Rick is closer. Their number was 12. Seth, I'm going to go ahead and put Chase Elliott on your list just because. Rick, you got your top 5 or at least top 3 that you got to rattle off?
Top 5, I'll start with Donnie Schatz. He has an unbelievable record, not only in the past in World of Outlaws, but it just speaks to it. It speaks for itself, And then if you're going to mention Donnie Schatz, you've also got to mention Brad Sweet, who's won the last 4 as well. But I mean, as far as top 5, if we're going to look at all disciplines, let's start on the dirt, and let's start with Donnie Schatz, who's got more championships than Nick Saban could ever dream of having in his entire life. He's unbelievably one of the best drivers on dirt right now. Maybe not so far this season, but he's doing fantastic. Fernando Alonso, you gotta give it up to the old guys. There's going to be a lot of old guys in this list. He can still kick around Formula One. Obviously, he's not in the most competitive car anymore, but he's still unbelievably good. He's won Rolex. I believe he's won Rolex 24. I don't know if he's won Daytona 24, but he's won. Well, I'm sorry. When I say Rolex 24, I mean Le Mans. Gotcha. So I know he's won Le Mans. I don't know if he's won the Daytona 24. Obviously, a 2-time Formula One champion. He can prove that he can hold his own in IndyCar. He came extremely close to that Indy 500 win before the engine let go. You've got to throw him in the mix. Looking at the stock car side, you've got to give it up, obviously, to Kyle Busch. He's not only proven that he still has what it takes to win as of last Sunday, but he's got everything that it takes to be a champion and be a memorable one as well. I mean, we're going to take talent into this. I mean, he's got enough talent to speak of, but definitely his personality has been one that you can look back through his career and you can genuinely say he did not care. He just did him, and it worked. So Kyle Busch, for millions of reasons, has got to be in that top 5 for me. Lewis Hamilton, and you don't really need to say anything else. You really don't. Lewis Hamilton. Throw in another old guy, Elio Castroneves. He's 47 years old. 4-time Indianapolis 500 winner. He just won the 24 Hours of Daytona. I would have loved to see what he could have accomplished in Formula One, but I mean, he just won the 2021 Indianapolis 500 as well.
Yeah.
As far as winning on all fronts, these are all drivers, save for Lewis Hamilton, who we haven't seen do IndyCar or anything like that. But these are all drivers that have proven they can win on all fronts. Donnie Schatz has won on a couple of continents, winning in Australia as well. Kyle Busch, we know he's competitive in literally everything. I think anybody that has ever been to a short track race has seen Kyle Busch race at a short track and win. He's just fantastic. Again, give it up to Lewis Hamilton, but then Elio Castroneves as well. These are all guys that have won on multiple disciplines.
Yeah, and all right, so Rick, your 5 definitely looks different than the other two's 5. Seth, what do you got for your top 5?
So for me, whenever I put together, I'm thinking right now, and that's combining resume, that's combining talent that I think is right now. So one, I got to go Lewis Hamilton. I'm not an F1 like homer, but I do enjoy watching F1, and you got to give up for Lewis Hamilton. I
All right.
still think he's the best driver on the planet right now. At number two, one guy that is severely underrated and doesn't get the credit for his diversity and accomplishments is Scotty McLaughlin. The man is an incredible Australian supercar racer. He's an incredible
Give it
road
up.
course racer. He's incredible in the Indy cars, the way he's quickly developed to those cars, and I'm sure he's just one of those guys. He's fast at anything he hops into. At number two, again, maybe not going off the accomplishments like McLaughlin, but the diversity and the pure talent like McLaughlin. Um, I got to go with uh, Kyle Larson. The man races 100 races a year. He wins 80 of them. And he's not running against your local short track guys every night. He's running the World of Outlaws. He's running the All Star Circuit of Champions. He's running USAC. So and he it literally anything he gets into every car Kyle Larson has driven in his life in any major professional series of racing, he has won a race in. So I got to put Kyle at number two, or at number three, pardon me. At number four, going back to F1 again. Again, I'm not a big fan of him, but Max Verstappen has undeniable talent. I think he's going to go back to back in F1 this year. He is, you know, just amazing behind the wheel of a race car, and he's starting to stretch his legs and try some other things as well in that world. Um, and honorable mention from the F1 side, Charles Leclerc. He is unbelievable. If Ferrari ever got their shit together, he would be right up there on this list. And at number five, I have to go with Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon is a five-time IndyCar champion. He's still getting it
I
done
agree with that.
in his mid-40s. He still has the talents of the young guys. I actually had Herta at five earlier just because of pure talent, but going back and thinking about it, Scott Dixon still is dominating races, competing for championships, and shows just as much of a wheelman mentality than he ever has. So at number five, I got to go Scott Dixon. Two close runner-ups for five would be Kyle Busch. And I think Dixon and Busch are kind of interchangeable, and I think Hurt is on that list as well.
All right.
Maybe interchangeable at five.
Yeah.
Can I
Austin.
tell you why I wouldn't have Kyle Larson in my top
Yeah.
five?
Give me 1 second on that. I'm gonna grab Austin's last two. He's still stuck on 4 and 5. Austin, have you come up with your final two slots?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd put Josh Berry at number four. I know he just kind of just got into the NASCAR and Xfinity stuff, but I mean I've seen this dude in any kind of short track car, and he's just like a magician. Like he always finds his way up to the front. Just great all around racer, and just can come from the back to the front like it's nothing. So I think he's gonna rise to the challenge a lot this year in the Xfinity Series. So I'd put him at number four, and then I think at number five I'd probably put Joseph Newgarden out of the IndyCar stuff. I really think if he ever got the chance to go to F1, he would really show more of his talent there too. But that's just so hard to get in. But so I'd have Larson, Bush.
You had
God, I forgot who.
Larson, Hamilton, Busch, Berry.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That'd be my top
All
five.
right. So to recap, Austin's got Purnell's got Larson, Hamilton, Busch, Berry, Newgarden. Ryan goes Larson, Busch, Bell, Kane, and Crafton. Rick goes Schatz, Alonso, Busch, Hamilton, Castro Neves, and then Seth comes in with Hamilton, McLaughlin, Larson, Verstappen, and Dixon. A lot of open wheel there for the guy that doesn't watch a lot of open wheel, but we'll see how that goes off in the debate. And Rick, you didn't have Larson on your list. The other guys all did. Why no Larson?
because he's not been as consistent this last year as he was in 2021. Looking at the end of 2021, Kyle Larson won the 5 out of the last 8 races in the season, including the season finale at Phoenix, which sealed him that championship. And it was either his first or second season back after suspension, which is a lot to come back from. That season was brilliant for Larson. If we're talking right now on the planet, Kyle Larson did win at Homestead last season in the points. But if you look at 2022 compared to 2021, Kyle Larson finished 7th in the standings, and he ended up with 3 wins compared to, I think, 10 in 2021. It's a different Kyle Larson. It's not a championship Kyle Larson as well. And this season is going to be important for him. Now, Kyle Larson is extremely talented, but top 5 on the planet right now, there really isn't a lot to say for him, given what his last season was, and given that he's started this season, obviously, with a DNF. That's not his fault, but that's neither here nor there. It's something that is going to have to come back from. So at the moment, he's not top 5. Okay. Special mention to Sebastian Loeb, the 9-time rally championship, who's 49 years old and is still winning top division rally races.
I already have a counter argument for that.
Let me counter on Rick with Larson. Larson has, so I believe in his career, has never driven a vehicle with the suspension that the next gen car has, with the not the standard axle that we've used for 50, 60 years. Do you think that is something that's a learning curve towards him, and that he doesn't drive those style of cars? Everything, if he presses the gas pedal, both wheels turn at the same rate, versus the next gen car has that new suspension model. Is that something that could be affecting his rating in your eyes, Rick?
Who the hell knows? I certainly don't know. I don't know enough about the mechanics of the cars. I just know that, they're really loud and they go fast. I don't know enough to say whether it is or not, but ultimately, the question is best on the planet at this moment. Okay. Kyle, if you would have asked me this question a year ago, yes. At this moment, he's not top 5.
Okay. And Seth, you said your rebuttal towards, you got Larson at 3, so he's not your top dog, but your rebuttal to him leaving Larson just completely off the top 5.
So my only rebuttal is, you have some guys on there like Castro Neves and other guys who haven't won races in their respective everyday series in years. Castro Neves won the 500 a few years ago. But, if you're going to go off of performance basing on your lists, and I don't see how you can justify some of the guys on your list. As far as performance goes, he still won 3 races last year, and the highest running driver with the most wins was at 5. So he was at 2 short of the most races won last year. He was very consistent. He was very fast. He ran a lot of laps. He made a deep playoff run. So in my opinion, it kind of contradicts what you based your list off of, but that's the beauty of being able to put together lists.
Yeah, and
here's what I'll say to that is, if he's best right now, that's fine. Now, again, he's just not top 5 right now. Castro Neves is winning the Indianapolis 500. Now, again, it's 1 win a season, right? But Kyle Larson just won the Indy 500. Kyle Larson won a championship in 2021. His 2022.
Okay, when did Castro Neves win the Indianapolis 500?
2021.
Exactly.
That's still, but he just won.
How many races did Castro Neves win this year, or did he run 20th every race?
He didn't. He didn't win a lot of races, but he just won the 20. He just won the 24 Hours of Daytona as well. He's still winning races. And we're talking about the top of IMSA as well. Now, again, a lot of people would say, well, he was with Meyer Shank. He had the best car. Of course, it's an endurance race. The best car wins, and that's how sport works. But Castro Neves is still winning world-class races at a very old age, relatively speaking, at the very top level of competition. If Kyle Larson had that level of consistency, like again, Castro Neves doesn't really count because he's an older fella, but
he
now
does.
let's look to
Put him on the list.
okay,
and I
then let's
think,
look at guys like Kyle Busch.
and I think
Let's look
that's
at guys like Kyle Busch.
where you guys are coming from is it's the great part about making lists is that it's one, your opinion, two, you get to back it up with facts, and a lot of them are irrefutable facts, just coming from the perspectives that each person has on their list, and and I bring Ryan and Austin into this, and they both had Larson at 1, and then had Busch as in their top 3 as well. So they double up on the stock car guys. And Ryan, I'll come to you. You hear those two guys coming around on Larson 1-4-1 against, but not saying that it's not a fluid situation and that this is a present day right now list. When you look at Larson, is it as fluid as Rick is saying, or a little bit more set in stone as Seth has?
No, I mean, honestly, their list. I don't know half the people they're talking about. I have no idea who the hell they even are. Just because I don't care. I don't watch that racing. But I mean, if you look at current drivers, I think you have to look at their entire career to put them in a list, and that's why that's why I have people like Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch and even Casey Kane, because Casey Kane was very, very good from the years, basically right when he started in the 9 car with Ray Evernham. He was very good. He went to Hendrick. He wasn't as great there, but he still had success. And then he went to the sprint car. And even though, and this is something that, this has nothing to do with his racing ability, but Casey Kane has a very, very good sprint car team. Brad Sweet, Casey Kane runs with them. He has other people that come in, week in and week out. To me, because I'm an owner of ARCS, I'm an owner of a team, that means a lot to me as well. Okay. So that's why I really liked Casey Kane, because not only can Casey Kane drive a race car, he can own a race team and be successful, and he's still a current driver. That's kind of where I come from, and same with the Kyle Larson and the Kyle Busch thing. I just think you have to look at their entire career, not what they've done this year, not what they've done 3 years ago, but go all the way back to their career. That's why I put Matt Crafton in there. Matt Crafton has been around for so long, and he's been so successful. Again, he's never moved up, but it's because he didn't want to. He doesn't have to. He's in the truck series. He's successful. Exactly. It's just like Frank Kimmel in the ARCA series for 20 plus years. Frank Kimmel ran in the ARCA series. Yes, of course, he never went to Cup. He never was successful there, but that's because he just didn't. Yeah, so from my perspective, it's you got to look at their entire career if they are a current driver, not just the last year or not even just the last 2 or 3 years. Okay. You got to look at their entire career and
a full
keep
body
that
of work.
Mind.
Full body of work compared to the snapshot of what we're looking at. And in Austin, do you kind of fall into that frame of reference where it's a body of work with a career, or is it what have you done for me now? And you've got Larson at 1 and Busch at 3 from your stock car realm, and after listening to Rick and Seth, why one leaves him off, why one says he's got to be there, why Larson at number 1 for you?
Well, I think it's just he's very well-rounded. I mean, he could jump in anything and be fast. I mean, there's a lot of guys like that. I'm sure there's a lot more we could add to all our list that can do that. But to me, everything I've personally watched Larson race, he's always definitely a contender. Even on his bad days, he's probably going to be running top 10, whether it be dirt or cup, whatever side of it. So that's why I would have him at number 1 versus some of them other guys. Like, I feel like, some of the other guys have bad days. They're not going to be quite as talented enough to drive that car still to a good finish.
Okay, yeah. and so Larson is, I would say, it would be on everyone's list. Rick's is a little more fluid, and he agrees towards what he can accomplish, but not to what he has accomplished in the last calendar year. I would say.
That's the question, isn't it, Matt?
What's that?
The question is the question is top 5 on the planet right now, isn't it? If we're gonna look, I mean, and I can respect. Let's look back at the last 5 years, last 10 years. Look at an entire body of work, like Brian said. That's an excellent point, but I think it strays from the question. Now, if we're talking, two different hemispheres of the planet, two different styles of racing. One side of the planet likes fenders, the other side of the planet doesn't. So it's almost like two different games are being played. You can't compare the basketball from 30 years ago to the basketball today.
Well, and I kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a childish reference towards it, but you take the Cars movies when they had all the different forms of racing all running the same races. Obviously, that it would never work in the real world. Certain cars would do great at places and certain cars would do poorly at places. But if you put them all on the same track in their respective vehicles, the technology differences and the rules differences would throw chaos into completion. But I think when you look, whether it is open wheeled, whether it's dirt, whether it's short track, whether it's cup, you're looking at these lists, and yes, your perspective of body of work versus snapshot year. That makes the lineup a little more fluid. But what I'm seeing on here as well, and this it takes both perspectives into consideration, is that we have Seth with Hamilton at number 1. Ryan doesn't have any open wheel guys on his thing. He stays dirt and stock. And then Purnell has Hamilton at 2. Rick has Hamilton at 4. Yet Verstappen dominates the F1 series, so why not Verstappen and Hamilton off the list?
Bias.
Austin, I'll come to you first on that one.
Yeah, that probably just comes for a little bit more personal preference. Verstappen's very good too. I mean, I couldn't argue with anybody if they wouldn't say he was number 1 in the world, right? But yeah, for me, I've kind of grew up watching Lewis Hamilton more, so probably a little more biased towards that. Just kind of like his style a little bit.
Okay. And Seth, you've got Hamilton at 1 and Verstappen at 4. Is it another one of, I just prefer Hamilton's style of racing over what Verstappen has accomplished in this past year or so?
In the last year or so is kind of where I'm at. I think Verstappen has quickly put himself in position to be at the top of that list, but he's not there yet. And I think Lewis Hamilton is taking very underperforming Mercedes equipment right now. Which, in what world did we ever think we'd be saying that? And really driving the wheels off of it and doing some of the best driving that he's ever done in his career. Quite frankly. So I think he's getting more out of a race car than he ever has. Again, it was more for show, but I've also seen Lewis Hamilton wheel a cup car around Watkins Glen pretty damn good too, and put up some pretty competitive lap times, and a little trial thing with Tony Stewart. And again, that's a very small sample size, but I think you have to credit what that was. So okay. I think that you have to kind of look at both ends of the spectrum on that one.
Okay, and so I come to you, Rick, and you were talking about, what have you done for me lately, and why Larson is not on your list while you have Castroneves on your list. I'm going to take that same thought process towards Hamilton is, what have you done for me lately, and you don't have the guy that's winning all the races in Verstappen on that list. Is it like you said before, a biased thing where it's just what you prefer, or are we missing something in changing our thinking?
No, I'll be 100% honest. I completely forgot about Max Verstappen because I just don't like him. That's neither here nor there. And as far as my list, I mean, I don't really think I just put them in any order. I literally just scrolled across my internet tabs, and you're right when we're talking about what have you done for me lately. So with that in mind, I'd scratch Fernando Alonso off my list and substitute him with Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen goes back to sixth and beyond, or whatever order you want to put him in. But if we do have to order our list, I definitely would put Max Verstappen as number one on the planet right now. Lewis Hamilton is somewhere top three, honestly. But I mean, we also got to talk about Will Power, who's the IndyCar champion. He's won an Indy 500 recently, but these are all guys that are just coming off of championships or some of the most successful times in their career. That's why Kyle Larson, for me, hovers around that top five. But for me, I've seen, at least career-wise, I've seen more success guys coming from open wheel to NASCAR than the other way around, and I've seen it be more accessible.
Okay.
Sam Hornish Jr. is a special mention where he's come from. Now, again, he didn't have the most glittering career in the world, but I think we've seen more guys come from IndyCar and Formula One to American motorsports than from America to Europe, and for that reason, that's why I think you're going to have more of these open wheel guys more towards the top of that list. Verstappen won. Hamilton probably top three, and we can order the rest. I don't care.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, good clarification on that, and when you look at these lists, it definitely shows, one, your preference, and two, how you view what is best. Is it a 10-year look, a full career look, a snapshot of the year look? And so if you're listening along with us and you're like, what are they? They're stupid. What about this guy? What about that guy? Throw your top five down in the comments and let us know how stupid some of the lists are, or how much you agree with some of the lists are, and help us out in that, and we'll look at those and get them to these guys and see how they react and how you react to each one. But throw your top five down in the comments, and guys, I'm gonna leave it with this last green, yellow, red question. Every one of you mentioned Kyle Busch and or put Busch on the list, and no expounding on it, just green, yellow, or red. Kyle Busch is the best stock car driver of all time. Ryan Pannell.
Red.
All right. Austin Purnell.
I'm going to have to go red as well.
Rick.
Yellow.
Seth.
Red.
Red. Okay, so I had all reds. I'm going to go back through the order here, and you're going to give me your best stock car driver of all time, just their name. Ryan?
Oh, damn, man. Come back to me.
Austin?
David Pearson.
Rick?
No. Jimmy Johnson.
Seth?
Jeff Gordon.
That's what I'm talking
And
about.
back to Ryan.
I'd have to say Richard Petty.
Okay. All right, so it once again, I think it comes down to everyone's preferences and looks, but you look at Kyle Busch's record, he's over 200 wins. That takes out Petty's win mark. Granted, not all in Cup, but different eras, different times, and different amount of races you can get into. And then Jimmy Johnson, 7-time, Jeff Gordon, 4-time champ, and definitely someone that's put the sport on the map right there with Dale Earnhardt back in the late 90s and 2000s. And Austin, I don't know where you're going with Pearson. I can see it, but I don't know where you're going with it. But that's going to do it here today for the Inside ARCS podcast. Thank you, everyone that's listening and watching along, whether you're on Spotify, Apple, or Anchor. Thank you to those 3 entities for allowing us to be able to put this on. Thank you to Ryan Pannell and all the ARCS admins for allowing this podcast to continue on as we are diving into our busiest racing year yet. 2023 is off to a great start with all our different divisions, we've got more coming for you. And if you want to be a part of the ARCS family, go to racearcs.com, fill out your application, and we'll get you on track with us. If you're just interested in watching along, ARCS Racing Networks on Twitch and YouTube, as well as Arrow Broadcasting Networks and Rick James TV1 over there on Twitch. Those are all our partners that we're working with for our broadcasting through TNT, SNS, Ignition, and A Squared. So once again, if you're interested, go over to racearcs.com, get the information there from the application, and we'll get you in our Discord, get you a part of our family, get you on track with us. Thank you again to everyone. Thank you to my guests, Seth, Ryan, Austin, and Rick, for coming on the podcast. This has been one heck of a show. We will continue on next time on Inside ARCS, and we're going to let old Blake Shelton take us out.